The day begins in London with an atmosphere thickened by political tension and a sense that the national conversation on immigration is once again shifting. In front of a cluster of cameras and journalists, Nigel Farage stands poised, sounding more certain than ever that the political tide is turning in his favour. As the leader of the Reform UK party, he has built his image around moments like this, moments where public frustration, party rivalry and national identity converge into a single statement. His words today are no exception. Responding to the Labour government's new proposals aimed at reducing illegal immigration, he declares that his party would agree with much of what the Home Secretary has said. It is a striking comment coming from a politician whose career has been defined by challenging rather than applauding government policy. But Farage's message, as he steps deeper into the press conference, quickly becomes sharper. He argues that the national debate is missing its core point. In his view, it is legal immigration that is causing enormous damage to the British economy. The crowd of reporters is quiet for a moment, aware that this narrative, controversial as it is, resonates with a segment of the electorate who feel that Britain is changing too fast and in ways they cannot control. Farage is not simply commenting on policy. He is speaking directly to that demographic, the one that delivered shockwaves in the Brexit referendum and continues to be courted by both Conservative and Labour strategists. As he continues, Farage turns his attention towards the motivations behind Labour's immigration stance. He asserts, "I think a lot of what she said yesterday was directly motivated by the fear that the Labour Party would lose votes, particularly those from the Red Wall to the Reform Party." For him, the political calculation is clear. Labour senses vulnerability and Reform UK is gaining influence where it matters. In a moment of provocation and humour, he goes further, suggesting that the Home Secretary herself might be ideologically closer to Reform UK than Labour would like to admit. She might be our next defector, he says, adding, "I don't know, if her MPs vote against her, that could become more likely." The press reacts with soft laughter, but Farage's tone remains anchored in strategic seriousness. He wants his listeners to feel that the Reform Party is no longer an outsider. It is now a gravitational force pulling the political centre of gravity towards its own platform. As he continues, the message becomes more forceful. Illegal immigration, he insists, has stirred anger across Britain. There's no doubt, Farage says, that illegal immigration is making the country very, very angry. As she said, it's tearing the country apart. In this moment, Farage aligns himself with the Home Secretary's rhetoric, but he quickly redirects the audience's attention. The real economic crisis, he argues, is not illegal immigration, but legal migration, a phenomenon he claims has undermined productivity, strained public finances, and reshaped the fabric of communities across the UK. He draws connections that he believes have been deliberately ignored in public discourse. He argues that any observer can look at the direct link between falling productivity and the massive importation of unskilled labour. According to Farage, this trend spans nearly 2 decades and reflects a policy failure perpetuated by governments of both major parties. His language is deliberate. The phrase massive importation of unskilled labour is designed to evoke a sense of imbalance, a sense of unsustainable pressure. He wants the viewer to understand that he is not just critiquing Labour's new measures, he is indicting an entire political establishment that, in his view, refused to speak honestly for years. In the next phase of his argument, Farage turns to the welfare system. He speaks about enormous costs related to the arrival in our country of people who have entered not only illegally, but also legally. This is the backbone of his broader thesis, that legal immigration, often treated as benign or even beneficial by mainstream politicians, has been a silent contributor to economic strain. The narrative he constructs is one of a country overburdened and a political leadership unwilling to confront the scale of the challenge. And as he continues, his tone sharpens. Despite her protests, he remarks, referring again to the Home Secretary, I thought a lot of what she probably said yesterday was driven directly by fear that Labour are losing votes, particularly the Red Wall to Reform. For Farage, this framing is essential. It positions Reform UK not only as an ideological challenger, but as an electoral threat, a pressure point powerful enough to reshape Labour's rhetoric, he adds. And rhetorically, we would agree with a lot of what the Home Secretary said. Once again, he suggests political overlap, subtle or deliberate. He leaves the interpretation to his audience. He then repeats his provocative suggestion, indeed, there are some of us who thought it might just be a pitch. Maybe that's our next defector, I'm not sure. If her backbenchers vote against her, that could become a bigger likelihood. The line hangs in the air, half political theatre, half strategic signal. In British politics, defections are rare and explosive, and even the insinuation of one speaks to deeper turbulence inside Westminster Farage returns to the broader theme, the country's anger. No doubt, he asserts that we led the agenda on that illegal migration is making the country very, very angry. This is a statement not of analysis, but of ownership. He wants viewers to understand that Reform UK is not reacting to the debate, it is driving it. It is a bold claim, but one aligned with Farage's long-standing political identity. He has always positioned himself as the catalyst rather than the observer. Then he echoes the Home Secretary once more, reinforcing the notion of a country splintered by the issue. As she said, it's tearing the country apart. His message is that Britain is not merely dealing with a policy challenge, it is dealing with a social rupture, and it is Reform UK, he insists, that has been willing to confront this rupture openly. From here, Farage revisits the long-term pattern he believes defines the present crisis. That trend has been there now for the best part of 20 years. He paints a picture of a slow-moving escalation, invisible to many but deeply felt by those living in the communities most affected. His critique is not limited to numbers or policies. It is rooted in the lived experience of those who feel overlooked, those whom Reform UK hopes to attract in growing numbers. He concludes by stressing the financial burden. He speaks about the costs to our benefit system of those not just illegally but legally have come into our country. This summary aligns with his message from the beginning that the immigration system, in his view, is fundamentally broken and that legal immigration poses the greater threat. In this moment, he does more than argue a point. He articulates an entire worldview that drives Reform UK's platform. As the press conference winds down, the room remains charged. For some, Farage's remarks are alarming. For others, they are affirming. But regardless of opinion, his words reflect a political moment in Britain defined by shifting ground, contested narratives, and a growing appetite for more radical discourse. The Labour government's new proposal may be an attempt to reclaim control over the immigration debate, but Farage's reaction shows that the conversation is far from settled in his telling. The direction of the country is not decided in policy rooms, but in the anger, fears, and aspirations of voters who feel the system has failed them. As the cameras dim and the press disperses, what remains is the lingering sense that immigration, legal and illegal, will remain at the heart of Britain's political identity crisis. And Farage, standing firm at the centre of the storm, seems determined to make sure that his voice, his party and his narrative remain impossible to ignore.